I'm John David Birdall,
And I'm Zach Coleman.
and this is Comic Space, the only place in the whole galaxy where you can tune in, where you can geek out, and where you can learn something new about comics every week.
Hello, Spacers. This is Zach with John.
Hey,
How's it going, John?
well, I do believe it's going well. It's still sort of sunny here in Moorhead, Minnesota. The current time is 6:34 p.m. and here is, oh gosh, what's a song? What's a band and a song? Here's,
Come on, you're the musician.
yeah, but I'm just making this up as I go along. I'm trying to think of a song that we really ought to hear. It's like,
Summer Lovin'.
is it? No, I was thinking of Black Betty. Is that what it
Okay.
is? Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb.
Whoa, Black Betty, bam,
Yeah, bam, lamb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, bam, lamb. It's like, oh.
that's what's.
Yes, maybe we'll put this in the episode. That would be good.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's what's going on in Moorhead, Minnesota. It's currently probably, I don't know, 60-something degrees, and
Oh, man.
here's Black Betty.
This episode, we're talking about Marvel Comics, more specifically, Marvel TV series. I know we spent the last 2 episodes talking about DC, and that made John happy, and that's what I'm here for. But
Thank you for telling me now.
but no, now it's my time. So yes, let's start off with the most recent first, and even so recent that we have yet to see it. And I am, of course, talking about Hawkeye.
We haven't met yet. I'm Clint.
The new series that has been announced, the trailer has been released for December, if I remember correctly. December of this year.
Sure.
You've watched it already, haven't you, John?
Yeah, I saw the trailer, and yeah, it's very Christmas oriented. Doesn't he say in there, like he talks about Christmas? I just watched it once, so I didn't watch it a couple times. But he says
it's Christmas time.
Yeah, he talks about it being Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And you see all the the trees and the lights are up, and he's trying to spend time with his family, but it looks like he's getting drawn into some sort of shield mission. So that looks like it's going to be fun. It's also drawing from the series Hawkeye by Matt Fraction a little bit. I did have a chance to read that, and it may not be an exact interpretation or exact translation, but they are delving into some of the elements of that story. More specifically, they're getting into his apprentice, Kate Bishop, who in the comics becomes Hawkeye for a little while and is part of the Young Avengers, which seems to me more and more like they're queuing up for that. We already have had Stature, who is Scott Lang's kid, show up. We've already had Patriot show up with the Black Captain America, his nephew. And now we have Kate Bishop. So in some form in the future, it looks like we're going to have the Young Justice, or not Young Justice, wrong company.
Hey, why not? Why not?
Because we already have had Young Justice, okay? There are series, that's that. We haven't had the Young Avengers. So we're going to have the Young Avengers in a live action form, and that is a recommendation. If you haven't read that, please do. So we have that. There's also this great scene that was one issue in the books that they're pulling from with going into all the different arrows that he has during this chase. And there's that scene at the end where they're in the car.
This is too dangerous. Definitely not this one.
You don't have to say definitely like that. Holy shit! There are arrows more dangerous than that one?
So that's fun to see. So I'm excited for that one. And
I ought to bring up, now it hasn't been totally confirmed, right, that Kingpin's going to be in there.
That was what I was going to bring up too. I just pulled up this
article. I'll be quiet.
No. That was great. Great segue.
Thank you.
He's been apparently he did a soft denial saying that he wasn't going to be in there, but he had recently liked a bunch of stuff about Hawkeye. He also done these little poems on I was going to say Twitch, but no, the Tweety. Twitter, yes.
Twitter, yeah.
You can tell how much I use Twitter.
Oh no, you're probably there. The way you're talking, you're on there right now, aren't you?
Well, I have no. I'm not on there right now, but I am pulling up an article that has his tweets showing some of his poems that he's done that reference the Hawkeye series or moments in the Hawkeye series. So he's given a soft denial to it, but there's some evidence that maybe he might be doing coming into it, and even in the comic books, there is precedent for it. The Kingpin shows up at one point. Hawkeye steals a whole bunch of money from all these crime lords, these other kingpins and super criminals and stuff like that, so he earns their ire. So to have that happen, I would love to see him come back. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio was one of the great things to come out of the series of Daredevil.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. Like the Kingpin being in there, wow, that'd be just stellar. Hooray! Let's celebrate that. More characters, and more series and whatnot. But to have Vincent D'Onofrio reprise his role as the Kingpin, from Daredevil. Yes, more of that, absolutely.
And it would also just silence those rumors, suggestions that the Netflix series wasn't part of the actual MCU. It's been kind of hinted at that maybe it isn't, maybe it is. Who knows? I don't think we ever got a real confirmation from Feige about whether it was or not. I know that they tried, and it may get to that point where it's just kind of going away. But with this about the Kingpin, and then rumors of Daredevil, Matt Murdock coming up in Spider-Man, and the original actor who played Daredevil in that one reprising his role again, it's looking like it might go to the side of, it is part of this universe.
I wanted to make this city something better than it is. Something beautiful. You took that away from me!
Which is great. I think they should have been from the get-go. So that's something to look forward to. And then we've had the most recent ones. We have What If, which is out now. It's a continuing series. That's a nice one. That's a nice animated adventure to explore. What If. I still say that the best episode so far has been the one with Dr. Stephen Strange.
I watched that one. I recently just watched it.
What'd you think?
I wasn't certain what to make of it at first, okay?
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
And so that's not to say I did enjoy it or didn't enjoy it. It was just kind of like, okay, what's happening in this one? And then really, I got it. Okay, I got it. It's not like I didn't understand what was happening. Okay, I got the plot. But it was just kind of like, wait, where's this going? Is he actually going to become and then stay totally evil, or malevolent or something like that? But then, he's talking to the Watcher, or Uatu, right? He's talking to Uatu. And,
I love that part.
Yeah, and he's begging, please, no, please. And it's like, oh, I get it. I get what this is about, This is world building here.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Uatu, we're finding much more about the Watcher, or we're finding out, about the Watcher much more. As this series is progressing, and there's this kind of redemption for what was it? Sorcerer. What did they call it? He had a different name. It wasn't the Sorcerer Supreme. It was something else, right?
The Supreme Sorcerer,
or something like that. He had a different being becoming evil. He had a superior strange, or something like that. I don't. Yeah, I just watched it once again, But he's begging, and it's like, wait a second, like this is going to come up. They're telling a much bigger story than just what's going on in these episodes. When we saw that tentacled creature again, it's like,
Yeah.
There, that was the first hint or the first clue. But really, it's where Strange is talking to Uatu, and I was like, wait a second,
Definitely.
they're setting something up here.
Definitely.
You know?
And if you've seen any of the trailers, I had seen a recent one. It was like a mid-season trailer, and it shows all these characters that we've seen already together. So I think they may be doing some sort of, cross-dimensional Avengers-like team-up or something to that effect. But no, I just liked it because it wasn't a happy ending. It was a cautionary tale. It was bittersweet. The good guy didn't win. And just having that, it almost are like our town moment where it's the narrator who's been sort of this omnipotent being interacting with the group. With Uatu being the watcher, he's always been watching. And at this point, he gets to interact. And you get that hints throughout the series. So that part I liked. And again, he suffers from his ramifications. The entire universe crumbles up, and it shows. I think it builds to how dangerous it is dealing with magic and dealing with sorcery, and there is consequence. May not be consequence here in our universe, the MCU universe, but in this particular one that this doppelganger, this evil Strange, was dealing with, there definitely was a consequence to him meddling. So I think you need that in order to show what's at stake. So to have the bad guys win every once in a while is always good in storytelling, because otherwise they're not a threat. It's a Saturday morning cartoon villain and not an actual true villain, a true threat. So that's always fun to see.
And it was done really, really well, because it wasn't, and it didn't go in that sort of, it didn't go in the direction that I thought it was going to go.
It circumvented the norms. That's what Game of Thrones did. It circumvented your anticipation, your ideas of what was going to happen, that the hero was going to win. The first season, spoiler warning, the good guy died. And a lot of other good guys died, and some of the good guys ended up becoming bad guys. It circumvented that idea and got rid of that hero shield. It's like, and it made people continue watch and want to pay attention. How are they going to get away with this? How are they going to come through this? Are they going to come through with this? Because after that, the big gut punch was the Red Wedding. Where a lot of good people died.
Goodness.
I mean, Jesus.
Gosh! Like that's the only Game of Thrones episode that I've watched in full.
Really?
Yes. Like I knew of this, program. Like I met George R.R. Martin. It's like I knew, or at least it was coming up, and that it's like, and that it was so good, and that it was going to continue to be so good. But I just wasn't watching it. There was just a lot going on, and I guess I just approached series as like, I'll just watch it like when the season's done, or some of them when the whole series is done. But so I was invited over to a friend's home, and they were just watching Game of Thrones, and I was like, let's watch it. And it was that episode. And I was like, what is going on in this show?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the storytelling like I was talking about. It's like, because we care about these characters, it has that impact. If Sean Bean hadn't died, his character hadn't died, then that impact wouldn't have hurt as much, like the Red Wedding. And if these characters hadn't died, and the villains or the antagonists hadn't survived so much, then seeing like King Joffrey die so horribly wouldn't have had such an impact with people. Because all the good people are dying, and this little creep's living. And it's just it built it up, it built it up, it built it up, so that when he actually did die, you were thinking, yes. That's why it had the reaction it did. So, I mean, in this series, if they are building up to something, it's nice to see that this series, or at least one or two of the episodes, have a bad ending or doesn't turn out that well, so you know what the stakes are. So, that's, for all you future writers out there, that's something to remember. And then we have the more recent Disney Plus series. We've had Loki just recently. We've had The Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then we've had WandaVision. So, John, why don't you, out of those three, what's your favorites? 1, 2, and 3.
Gosh, and this isn't me trying to avoid the question. It's just I experience good and bad sort of differently from some people because of just kind of how the perspective that I do have,
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
And
So, yeah, tell us what you think.
I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be like personal. So it's gonna be just how they were written, how they were acted, how they were executed.
Yep.
Okay. And so the best out of the three, let's just start with the one I do believe is supposed to be the best, and that is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And I'll tell you why. Okay. But let me keep rating them. Okay?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Loki, and then WandaVision.
Okay. That's
Okay.
your rating.
Yep. And then after all of those, what if?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was just about to bring up what if and say,
No,
it's it's great, it's fun, it's sort of silly, and all that,
Yeah.
but it's not. I don't know if I'm going to really rewatch a lot of What If.
Mm-hmm.
To tell you the truth,
That seemed more of like, for the kids and sort of like an experimentation, I guess. Here's
Yes.
something fun that we can do. And to get away, sort of cleanse the palate almost. It's like, hey, we're here to have fun and not be something like Falcon and Winter Soldier, which deals in some heavy subject matter.
Yes, and so I see What If as a bunch of single issues.
Yeah.
But Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki and WandaVision, are larger works. I'm not going to say like graphic novels or something like that, but
A set.
they're bigger stories. Yeah, they're bigger stories, that you really have to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that one, I do believe I was supposed to be moved by it, just totally moved. And it wasn't so much... I guess what I ought to just thank them for was that film, or gosh, it was so cinematic.
It was a long film.
And you had talked about Anthony Mackie reprising his role as Captain America,
Yes.
or being Captain America in a fourth Captain America film.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why I bring up film. But it wasn't so much just setting up the next big Marvel story or the next phase. That one was really self-contained to me. And it was really just telling this story of these two individuals.
Yeah.
Which I thought it did so well. It was so successful at it, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
Definitely. So
Yes.
it's great storytelling right there. And as I said, it deals with some heavy subject matter. It deals with race. It deals with what happened to these characters. Sebastian Stan, whether or not he's back to normal as the Winter Soldier.
Bucky.
Bucky. Him coming to terms and having to deal with what he's done and trying to find some form of redemption. Then we have Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson, who was given this heavy burden, this heavy responsibility, symbolized in this shield that Captain America gave him at the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with that himself, Isaiah Bradley, and learning about him, how he was a test subject, and how he was essentially locked up, tortured, experimented on to try and reproduce this, and how he later escaped, and then coming to terms with how, as Isaiah put it, no self-respecting black man would ever carry that shield. And really dealing with discrimination and how this country has treated minorities. It didn't shy away from that, as well as giving us some great action and some really memorable scenes.
Yes, and I want to talk about that no self-respecting black man would carry that shield, and it's like, and Isaiah Bradley, he was played by the actor's name. He was Mantis. He was in the TV series Mantis, and he was the voice of Jean Jones on Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
Or Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited.
Carl Lumbly.
Yeah, Lumley. Carl Lumbly.
Yeah. I remember him off of Alias, too. He was sort of like the partner to Jessica. Okay. But
and so no self-respecting black man would carry that shield. And doesn't that draw from the comics as well? But wasn't it red, white, and black?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the series?
It was a little mini series they did that delves into Isaiah Bradley's run as Captain America briefly, sort of as an experiment to see if this would work. They released a whole bunch of these quote unquote super soldiers, the ones that survived, and to South Korea, and he was the only one to come out of it.
Okay. So yes.
Also drawing allusions, to the Tuskegee experiments that they did on African American pilots. Also delving into that dark history.
Yeah, that's terrible. And so all of that coming up, and him saying, no self-respecting black man, would be Captain America.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Mackie's character, right? Or Falcon. Let's just say Falcon. Yeah. Although in the show, Black Falcon.
There was Black a little Falcon. Bit, yeah. I love that bit.
But yeah, when he says, it's like, we're all not going to go through all of this not to have something great come out of it, or not to have something, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, I'm not quoting verbatim, but it's like to suffer so much and then to finally just say, no, I quit, or no, I can't do it, or to let anger, dictate your decision making.
Yeah.
Like that, and to give up on your ideals, or give up on your virtues, or give up on what's virtuous.
Yeah.
Because the shield is not, the shield is not, just for a white man. It's not just for a man. It's not just for any one person. The shield, is something that's supposed to be carried, and something that's supposed to protect us, and something that's supposed to defend us.
It's supposed to be an ideal. An ideal to try to strive for and to live up to. We've made some mistakes in the past, and I love that iconic scene, like the second and last episode, where U.S. agent has it and he just killed somebody, and the blood on it. We have a stained, checkered past, but we can always better ourselves, and that's sort of what he's hitting at. With so many sacrifices, so many things have happened to get us where we are. No one's going to tell me that I can't fight for it.
Yeah, exactly. Including a person who sacrificed the most.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to, in the face of such adversity, in the face of such, like conflict or challenge, or impossibility, you have to say, no, I am going to persist. I'm going to persevere. And that's why that series is at the top of the list for me.
Yeah, definitely. And it kind of brings back that idea that was brought up in Civil War, and dealing with whether it's right or wrong to live up to these ideals, and it was kind of hinted at that movie Civil War. It wasn't Cap who said it at that point; it was Carter, Agent Carter, about how when everyone's telling you to bow down, to step down, you plant your feet and you say no, and you plow through when you know you're right. And very much he embodies that. And that's iconically, or that's what should be the most important thing about being Captain America, is holding on to that ideals and not necessarily being that super soldier. The blonde hair, blue eyes character. It's the thing that made Cap special was his personality, his perspective, his spirit, and the ideals he represented. To a lot of other people, America means something that's not exactly healthy, and could be taken in a very negative, very forceful way, which is what happened with the U.S. agent. Having someone like the Falcon take over the shield and say, no, this is how it's going to be, is really a growth for the character, because he ends up stepping up for this responsibility. And a growth of the country itself saying, no, this is what we're supposed to represent. And I love, love, love that speech at the end, the very last episode, where he's talking to those Sinisters. They are sinister. Sinister?
Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No, those senators at the end, and how they're just trying to write off all these people who just tried to kill him as terrorists. And it's like, you gotta stop saying that, okay? You guys made this happen. And one of the lines I love is, no one's bothering to ask why. Why are they doing this? And you see this reflected so much in our own politics in this country, in real life. No one's asking why these refugees are just flooding our borders? It's because we help destabilize these governments. No one was asking in this world why they were doing this. What is driving them to do this? How do they feel? So to have a character like that to come in and say, you guys got to stop and think, is really great. And it really needed to be said. And I'm glad it was. So.
Yes, and said in that way too. And so, yes, it was really, it began well, it progressed well, and it ended really, really well.
Yes.
And it can be watched on its own. It could lead into a film or something like that, but it was just, or another series or another season, right?
Yeah.
But no, it was just really well done. And then Loki, it was, it was.
That one was a trip.
Yeah, it was.
Journey into mystery, definitely.
Sure. I'm thinking of like unconventional, quirky, bizarre, strange, queer in the strange sort of way,
Yeah.
But still, it was bringing up some of those issues too. Like on a forum, what it said is sexuality was fluid. And so it's like, well, that's really great. And he talked about that too in that episode. So it had some sort of, I guess, social commentary in it, or commentary on the world that we're living in,
Yeah.
But no, it was lighter. It was lighter what was going on, and it was more world building.
And definitely saying, if anything, and this could be some of the harm to it. It was half a season, so it kind of only seemed to be a world building experiment.
Sure.
Again, because of the pandemic, it had to shut down production. I guess they decided to cut it up into 2 seasons. So we only saw half of what was originally supposed to be shown before the pandemic hit. That, I think, hurt, at least to me, hurt the series. And that's why I would put that third, as opposed to WandaVision. Because because those two actually had a full season, full range of storytelling. They were able to start, middle, and end it all. Whereas this one, it kind of seemed they found a good place to stop it. I'm not saying they didn't do that, but again, an epic misadventure is what it was, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's where it got lowered down to 3. So, but I will say that for me, I will say that it dealt with a lot of different genres, at least in my opinion. Was that the same for you? Because it was, at first, it kind of came off as sort of a con movie, almost like The Sting or Can You Catch Me?
A caper sort of movie?
Yeah. I honestly, first thing that came to my mind was White Collar, if you ever saw that series. It was the con man. In this case, it was Loki working with the feds. In this case, it was Mobius and the TVR.
Yeah.
Or the TVA.
Or TVA.
TVA. So it kind of got into that, and then it got into another, misadventure genre type. We're going to have adventures, and then it got into like the cosmic realm almost with the ending there. So, I mean, was that the same thing with you? Did you spot anything like that, or I'm just crazy?
No. As far as I know, you're not crazy. I did look up the definition of crazy a little while ago because people kept saying crazy, and it's like, you know what? Hey, I'll bring it up right now. But it's like, I was actually like in a conversation where crazy and insane, like a person was saying those words, and it was very Princess Bride, if you're getting my reference there.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
And so I was like, I just kept hearing it again and again and again. It's like, you know what? I'm going to look this up. And I will answer your question. What did I think of Loki? It's like what you're talking about too. But yeah, insane. Okay. No, crazy there. So crazy. What is that? Essential meaning of crazy. There we go. So usually offensive, having or showing severe mental illness, unable to think in a clear or sensible way, wild and uncontrolled. And that's what I think people often mean when they say crazy. It's like wild and uncontrolled. And so insane was what? Exhibiting a severely disordered state of mind. Gosh.
So Trump brothers.
I guess so. Unable to think in a clear or sensible way. And so insane is more kind of silent and really disturbing, whereas crazy is like deranged,
Yeah.
And so Loki was really deranged. I'll say that. Are you being deranged right now? No. I
thank God
totally
for that.
agree with you. Yes.
Thank
I
God
totally agree with you that they just kind of threw, and I'm not saying they did this haphazardly, probably happily,
Yeah.
through
I
ideas.
think that was like the whole
at a
point
big
of
board.
it. It
Yeah.
was meant to be a misadventure.
Yeah.
It started off with that caper sort of, con movie, and then it was meant to break off into him kind of joining with the quote-unquote bad guy or the antagonist, and then learning more about that, and then them teaming up to find out, oh, look, there are other Lokis, and oh, look, there's this grand puppet master. We finally get to figure out what it's going on. And you really get the feel for the characters. At first, you think, this variant Loki is really a bad person, but you get to know her, and she's not all that bad. She has a logic, a reasoning to it. And then it kind of does a whole nother 180 to the point where she feels like she is going to become a good guy, and then she turns back to being a bad guy.
Uh-huh.
So it's twists and turns, and you said frantic and all the words that you said.
Oh, deranged.
Yes.
Like deranged.
Yeah. So, but again, it's a structured deranged. It's a structured chaos almost.
Yeah. An organized one, right? Organized chaos.
Yeah. It was planned. Yeah. It was like it's meant to be this way because these are the guys of chaos and deception and lies and mischief. So yeah, you're gonna have this. So I thought it felt really true to the character. Or characters, I guess, because it is multiple Lokis.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is great. And so yes, it's a lot of ideas. There's a lot going on, but really at the end of the day, I did see it as another step towards something else and not its own story.
Again,
not as much as.
That's just structuring. I think it wasn't given enough time.
Mm-hmm. But done much better than a WandaVision.
Okay, so
to me, and let me talk about why.
Give me your thoughts.
Because I do believe WandaVision could have been about half as long.
Really?
It's great to see these characters. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just kind of like I got it. They could have had one episode that sufficed. I do believe anyway. One episode that sufficed as okay. We're watching something that looks like a dated TV show, or a TV show from another era, or
the
something
I Love
like that.
Lucy's, the Dick Van Dyke shows.
Yeah, I do believe that could have been done in like one episode, like to get us up to, there's this area that we can't enter, and then introducing Sword or something like that, or this town, right?
Yeah.
This town that's been enveloped or that has been isolated, right?
But introducing Sword too, because they were. They were introduced.
Yeah, and then introducing Sword. It's like I do believe that could have moved a bit quicker. It's great that was a great novelty. I'm not saying gimmick, but a novelty in the show. That was all right. But I do believe it could have just got to the real, essence of the story a bit sooner. And so that's where I like Loki just got right into it.
Yeah,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier just got right into it. WandaVision, it was just kind of like, what is this show about?
Yeah, that one did have
for a while.
For a start, it was a question mark.
Yeah,
it's like we knew who these characters were, but how did they get there? And it did. I do agree with you a little bit about how it kind of did linger on a little bit too much, but that was sort of the fun and mystery of it. At least for me, it's just you're playing the whole bewitched moments and dealing with Wanda and her magic, and then Vision being the android, and popping back out into the real world and figuring out little by little what's going on. But to me, that sort of added to the mystery of, okay, let's figure this out. And anyone who likes any murder mysteries or just mysteries in general is deducing the clues and trying to figure out who's at fault. Is Wanda to blame? Did she do this? Did she not? And then I felt like it circumvented the norms of storytelling when she literally came out with that drone and basically said "F off."
Yeah. See, I do believe that could have happened sooner. That's all I'm saying. It would probably be, I would have swapped it because it's like, that story Yeah, there was some more building in there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some more like leading towards probably Multiverse of Madness,
Yes.
you know, a bit, and other stories too. But yeah, it's just kind of like it took quite a while to get there. It's like
Yeah.
I think they could have trusted the audience to like figure out maybe like so a third of one episode is Dick Van Dyke, a third of one episode is Brady Bunch, a third of one episode. So you've got that all being covered in one episode, you
Yeah.
know, and then it's kind of like okay, we've laid the groundwork, we've laid the track. There's a mystery here. None of this makes any sense, and then get right to her, issuing that ultimatum, leave me alone,
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. But yeah, other than that, there was some great stuff in there. We also got, the White Vision. That was great.
Oh yes,
And have
and the
that,
ship of Theseus, right?
You are familiar with the thought experiment, the ship of Theseus, in the field of identity metaphysics? Naturally.
yes, and that was going to make a comment on that. How it started out with a fight, but it ended with a mental battle with the thought exercise of Theseus and the ship, and hinting that maybe we'll get the vision back sometime in the future. And as you said, world building, going back to Young Avengers, we had Billy and Tommy right there, the twins of Wanda and Vision. So they were in the Young Avengers too. So we'll see what happens with that. They're more likely going to come up at some point in some time as teenagers. Of course, that last scene with Wanda looking through the Darkhold and hearing her children cry out in the back. And just kind of having that mental breakdown that you see in the comics with House of M, almost. Her making her own reality and having to come to terms with that just because of that mental break. And you really, this is one of the places where it shines, in my opinion. You really feel for her. I mean, she's lost so much with her brother, and now this person that she fell in love with, and how they had plans to move there and start a family, start a life, and wanting that, and even going back and learning more about the character and how she was growing up on these old sitcoms, these old black and white series, and then that's the moment where the bomb comes, crashes in and kills her parents. So, I mean, you really end up feeling for the character and how it's that bittersweet ending. She is able to stop things and put things right, but she's left with the realization of how much pain she's in, and not only that, the town doesn't look favorably on her as well. So it really drives the character to have the audience understand why she's doing what she's doing, and why she would go to such steps, and especially even that last scene of her exploring the Darkhold. It gives justification for what she's doing, and you understand it.
Yes, and I did. It's like, and it's got a depth to it. It does. It's just it took too long to get there, and that's all. And it's not. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy that. I'm just saying, it's like
that's your
now.
critique.
I'm just going to skip those episodes. I probably will. And then just get right to her. Challenging or threatening. People, and then there's a mystery, and so they start to solve it. And I do believe that it was the other series are more successful. I mean, just you hear about them more people are watching them because they just got right into it. It's like, we know these characters.
Also, the Netflix series, the Big Four of Daredevil.
This is my city.
Of Jessica Jones.
What are you on, lithium?
Luke Cage.
Sweet Christmas.
And Iron Fist.
Not even after I clocked you with this bad boy.
So I'll start off. I would have to rate, of course, Daredevil being the top of the four. There's no question about that. And then I would have to go into Luke Cage being my second.
Oh, okay.
And then it's sort of a tie between Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. And I'll explain why. Let's start from the bottom. Sure. Iron Fist may not have had a good running out the gate with its first season. I still like it and I'd still watch it. But it improved with the second season. Whereas Jessica Jones had a really good, strong start with her first season. And then the second and third, I mean, it just kind of lagged.
There was a third?
There was a third, yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
after the first season, and do continue after I say this, but it's like, after the first season, I watched some of the second one, and I was like, I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And I didn't go back to it.
Yeah. This was around the time, the third season of Jessica Jones was around the time of the merger with Disney.
Oh, okay.
So it was really up in the air about whether or not they were actually going to do it anymore. So it came out around that time, and it just didn't really get a lot of hype and a lot of advertising on it. And from what little I saw of it, because I didn't even finish the third season, it was just kind of lackluster and just So I mean, that's where I would probably put it as the fourth. It had a really good, strong start with Kilgrave and dealing with Jessica Jones as a character and dealing with her trauma and that kind of stuff. But the rest of the season just kind of lagged. Whereas Iron Fist, you have your critique of it, but it grew better. So, and then, there are a lot of series out there, and not just in Marvel, but just series in general, where it takes time for it to development. I mean, I was remembering the time, as an example of like Futurama or Simpsons. Go back and watch those first episodes and compare it to the current ones. Yeah. I mean, it was good, but it got better over time, and that's what was happening with Iron Fist. So, and then Luke Cage, good, strong 2 seasons. And as stated in the past, Marvel has this tendency to turn their heroes flawed and their villains heroes. Sure. And that was very much reflected in Luke Cage. To where at the end of the second season, he's in that same position that Mariah was in.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of left questioning, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy now? Power corrupts, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Is this going to corrupt him? Or is being on the inside, he can make changes? He pretty much ends up getting Mariah's crew. Mm-hmm. So it's left to an ambiguous, what's going to happen. To the point where even his allies are saying, we can't follow you. I'm talking of Misty Knight, of course, who kind of left him to the side, or at least gave him a warning, say, hey, you step out of line, I'm going to bring you in too. It was kind of hinted at the third season of Jessica Jones. He pops back up. And sort of like a moral compass for Jessica Jones dealing with her problems. In the guise of what Mariah was. He's in charge of the club now. And he's like, if I ever step out of line, I hope there would be friends there to stop me. Mm-hmm. So it kind of hinted that maybe he's going to go about it a different way, but it leaves it up-ended question to the point where I want to know more about it. Ooh. And then, of course, we got Daredevil, which is obviously the best of all those series.
Yes. Just without considering, I mean, we're supposed to consider genre because this is comic space and we talk about comics. But once we disregard genre, it's just a really great series.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, take away the superhero vigilante elements of it, you still have a great story. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's to be applauded. And again, going back to flawed heroes and heroic villains, it really fleshed out the characters, and going back to the source material with Frank Miller's Daredevil and his run in the series, dealing with his conflict with his religion, his Catholicism, about being a lawyer trying to help people, and then at night beating the crap out of people and being violent, and then making sympathetic villains, as where we have Kingpin. You feel for this character and you want him to succeed, but then again you see the horrific things he does. So it's very much sympathy of the devil. Sure. And much like the sympathy of the devil, the devil coerces others, and you're talking about his love, Vanessa, and how he kind of corrupts her, is really interesting too.
A woman that can be bought isn't worth having.
And then you get into later seasons dealing with the Hand, bringing in characters like the Punisher, which is also another series that we should talk about as well.
Okay.
Elektra 2, and dealing with that. More development of the Hand. The conflict with Daredevil, Stick, his mentor, and Elektra was always interesting. And then we get into the third season where we bring in the villain Bullseye and sort of the corruption of his title as the Devil of Hell's Kitchen because of what Bullseye did. And him sort of whether or not he should continue being the Daredevil is really interesting conflict. Really interesting storytelling, in my opinion. So that's why it ends up being the best.
Yeah, I'll just jump right in. So, you know what? I'll talk about something that hadn't been brought up yet. Defenders.
Yes,
the Defenders. I watched, and it's like, wow, okay, yeah, I'll come back to that. That's something I'll come back to. I'll watch that again. They brought them together, I do believe, really well. With what they could do on Netflix, being TV, streaming series. I say TV series, and perhaps they will actually be on a TV channel at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe that was done really well. So now let me talk about the individual shows. Punisher was so violent. Oh my gosh. Like I was not supposed to watch too much of that. That doesn't mean I didn't like it. I don't know how to not like it. It's just like, it was like, oh my goodness, I really have to come back to this one. And I did come back to that, and I did watch it. And that's how he's supposed to be. I think that was the first time, as far as I know, the Punisher was really done right.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know about the actor portraying him. Really, I don't know that, like John Barenthal, was that his name?
I believe so.
Yeah. I don't know about the actor. I'm not really certain about that. But, of course, there's really no one actor that can play these characters, these larger-than-life characters. Each one gives it a try. Some get closer than others, like with Sherlock, Superman, Batman,
Yeah, everyone has... it's like what... Mark Ruffalo said about the Hulk. It's like the common man's, or this contemporary Hamlet. Everyone's had their shot at it. And it's the same with these characters too. I mean, everyone's going to bring their own interpretation to this character, and some are going to be better at it than others. I'm also partial to the Thomas Jane version of the Punisher.
I do believe he got much closer.
Yeah.
Like, if that Punisher series would have been with Thomas Jane, I totally would probably be watching it again and again.
Yeah.
And that's just me. And maybe even Dolph Lundgren, too. Because he was the Punisher as well.
Well, wait. Okay, that's kind of pushing it. Okay, he didn't have the skull. I mean, come on.
No. So there was that. So there's the Punisher. But Daredevil, definitely. If I'm ranking them, if I'm supposed to rank them, Daredevil... really, of what I saw of Jessica Jones, so that would be 2. Of course, I didn't watch as much, so maybe that's like an asterisk that ought to be put next to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, yeah, Daredevil definitely number 1.
Definitely.
And for some reason, I'm just supposed to talk more about Iron Fist, and I'm not really certain if it's because it was like really, really great. Actually, it was. I watched it with our mother. She was like, let's watch a show. I do believe she was just trying to spend time with me, and she knew I had read comics and I write comics or produce them, as you do too. And she was like, hey, let's just watch this on Netflix. And so we were watching it, and perhaps that's why I'm supposed to put that higher on the list, because like it was just something so meaningful with family, and there was that family dynamic within the show.
I was going to bring it up, yeah. It definitely dealt with family. For all the hype it's gotten, negative or otherwise, I think it did. I mean, it wasn't as bad as people portrayed it as. I got what they were kind of going for. Here's this kid who lost his parents. He went through this terrible ordeal and put himself through this training in order to come back and say, hey, I'm here to figure out what happened, and sort of becoming the Iron Fist was to rectify what happened to him. He wasn't really looking to be this protector. It was just a stepping stone in order to get to what he wanted. And very much him being the not necessarily the guru type warrior monk, as like kung fu, the legend continues, or that kind of,
or the original kung fu.
Yeah, the original kung fu
series, right?
Yeah.
And then,
I don't think they were trying to play him off as that, and that was meant to be, the audience's anticipation of that. He was an angry kid who had some skill and went through this trial in order to get this power. So, and it had to take him a while, and going through this ordeal, reconnecting with this surrogate family of his, and going through this in order for him to get into that state, and which is why I think it's better, as you see him in the second season of Luke Cage, being sort of this calming effect to Luke Cage and telling him to think. He's kind of coming into his own in that series or that part, and then in his second season. So I thought that was good. I understood what they were doing. The execution, yeah, you could say would need to be better. But then again, that's true of everything. So you can always do better.
Yeah, or at least attempt to improve, or learn from what you did. And it's like, now that I've seen, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, it's like, oh wow, like if Iron Fist couldn't have the exact same elements in it, especially culturally, but they probably learned a lot from Iron Fist, and it's like, you know what, let's go this direction.
If
it's
definitely
going to be a martial arts sort of centered, production or story or something like that. So ranking them, and I'll just get right to ranking. So Daredevil, I'll say that. Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and for me, Luke Cage is at the bottom, and it's not because it was bad. It's just kind of like, I just. I'm not even certain. Like, do allow me to talk a little bit about why I put that one last. But it's like, I don't. It just wasn't. It was kind of that one especially was. I don't. Yeah, maybe it wasn't peaking. I do hope that it was. If it wasn't, I don't know that it wasn't. But it was just kind of like, it kept revisiting the same spaces and the same places, and not. Philosophically or something like that, or intellectually. It wasn't, but I don't know, it just wasn't. It was kind of like I was watching the Hulk, but the Hulk never showed up. And I don't know, I'm not certain what I mean totally by that, but it was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of action in this one. There ought to be, because he's right. He's Luke so Cage. Indestructible. Yeah, he's Luke Cage. Right. And it just wasn't. It was just kind of like, they're just talking a lot, and and perhaps there's just not so many issues that I have to deal with myself, and maybe that's it. Because it was so racially centered.
It was a cultural.
Yeah, and so I'm not putting it down. In fact, I'm supposed to be glad I watched it, and I did watch it. But it's just kind of like, I don't really, this territorial sort of thing that's going on.
It's hard to be relatable.
Yeah, I just didn't, and maybe for some reason I could, like with Jessica Jones, and being manipulated to the point of like losing so much control, and losing so much of her identity, and then trying to reclaim some of that. I mean, we all have those sorts of experiences, like just childhood. Who am I? You reach a point where you kind of have a crisis of identity, where it's like, okay, who am I now that I'm not, that child or that adolescent, or
you don't have that influence, or you come up with a different mindset that's different from others, and you start questioning, okay, they're telling me this one thing, what else has been wrong, or do I not agree with? And it's just that sort of awakening of your own individual self.
Yes, what world am I living in? And then Iron Fist had, like family, and also centering oneself, composing oneself, and on the other side of that, or maybe on the other side of that identity coin, having found oneself, and then returning to, the place that had made you, or something like that, or that you had grown up. So those, I suppose I could identify with. And Daredevil was just so well done. I mean, it's like that did deliver so much action, and that did deliver, so much. I was about to say intensity, but it's like it was so saturated. It was so saturated in this kind of in that world. It really established that world that the other series did, tap into. Which did lead to the Defenders. But for some reason, Luke Cage to me just seemed to be like, I guess, and it just seemed outside of all of that somehow. And again, it's kind of like it's the Incredible Hulk, but the Incredible Hulk just didn't show up. It was just kind of Bruce Banner the whole time, And maybe it's because Luke Cage was trying to. Maybe all of these shows have all been about identity. Now that I'm talking about this, but maybe that was the subject of each one of these series was, identity or
the conflict of finding that identity. I mean, you go from Jessica Jones, who's just trying to make amends or trying to make amends of her life, I guess, and then having to be put into that identity of being a hero or giving a damn. You have Daredevil with his duality in identity, being Daredevil and being Matt Murdock. You have Luke Cage with the identity of him being a black man and then being bulletproof. And then also add to that, he's an entirely different person. He used to be a cop. He was taken away for a crime that he didn't commit. So he has the convict identity. And then, of course, not Jessica Jones, but Danny Rand. Iron Fist. Has to deal with the identity of who is he now as opposed to who he's been in the past. We see him in the first season, he hasn't really accepted the fact that he has this responsibility, this identity of the Iron Fist. And him going through this journey in order to figure out himself helps him figure out that Iron Fist identity, that reason why he needs to be the protector. And not just limiting himself, and later realizing he doesn't have to limit himself just to Kung Long, but to others as well. So I mean, very much identity is, if not the main factor, a factor in a lot of these stories.
Yeah, and Iron Fist, like he knew he had the power. And I suppose that's what I do mean by he knew who he was supposed to be. In that he knew he had this ability. And then Luke Cage, like he has this ability too, but he just kind of, I don't know about wanders through it, but it's he's reticent, to really
he's
adopt
reluctant.
that. And maybe he's
a reluctant hero.
He's a reluctant hero, and so it's kind of like watching the Incredible Hulk, and then Bruce Banner the whole time is just kind of like, no, I can't. I know he does that anyway, but he like watching a TV series about the Incredible Hulk where Bruce Banner actually succeeds in not becoming the Hulk. And so we're supposed to applaud that because it's like, hey, great self-control or great accomplishment, great achievement or something like that, or you won, but it's like, but you have this, incredible ability, and so maybe that's it. I'm talking about potential. Maybe it just seemed like it didn't, I don't know, access or realize all of its potential. As totally as the other series is, because Jessica Jones, like she showed not like showed off, that she has such incredible strength and such, what superpowers or whatnot, or metahuman sort of abilities or something like that. But for some reason, it just seemed like she utilized them more than Luke Cage. So I think that's what I'm talking about. Race could have been a part of it. It's like, I haven't grown up in those sorts of neighborhoods, or I'm not that competitive or territorial myself. I don't know how to be. But it was more, it's like they could just, have him, knock down more doors, and, not like totally pick up cars and throw them just to do it. But it's like, it's like to really, I guess maybe to wow an audience. But to show, to really show that he's got something very, very special. Just a little bit more than they did.
But it kind of goes back to what I had said earlier about him being the reluctant hero almost, because he doesn't want to show that. And again, going to the bulletproof black man and dealing with those social problems there too. Someone like him displaying, as you'd said, could cause problems, and I think that he was more aware of that, having already been incarcerated beforehand. So I maybe I saw that. I don't know if necessary that you picked up on that. Excuse me. But that was what it kind of spoke to me. It's like he was cautious, he was wary because he was already burned.
Sure.
And to the point where he was like, there's where the reluctance came from. It's like, I've already been incarcerated for something I didn't do. Me going around breaking things and doing this with these powers, it's just going to be another reason for him to lock me up. But he still does it in a way that tries to benefit him. And that's sort of his question. And his identity struggle is, who am I in regards to Harlem and this community? Especially once it's outed that I am this person. Sure. So that's what I saw in that character, and that's why I liked watching him.
And I ought to say this. It's like, okay, I got it. I was talking about, Incredible Hulk, where the Incredible Hulk doesn't show up. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me posit this instead, or assert this. It's like, if I were supposed to watch, if I had a choice, really, I don't know about that, but a series about Isaiah Bradley or a series about Sam Wilson, I'd probably watch the series about Sam Wilson. Not because I ought to deny that wrong has been done, to certain people, of a certain group. That's not what I'm saying. It's that the character, okay? I'm not going to watch a series about Isaiah Bradley talking about how awful it all is and how reluctant he is and how, there's no self-respecting black man who would, we just talked about this, who would be Captain America. I'm going to watch the series about Sam Wilson triumphing.
Persevering as well.
Sure.
Because Isaiah Bradley ends his journey, at least when he's Captain America, cynical until Sam comes along. And then Sam is the one who perseveres and comes out with a better disposition.
Yes.
So, I can understand how that would speak to you, definitely.
Yes. So Luke Cage, it's probably just like maybe unrealized potential, sure. But I think now that I've just said that, and you did say cynical, and cynicism, it's just like, you know what? No, I just am not going to watch too much of that. And that's probably why, again, I had to stay away from The Punisher.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh my gosh, that was pessimism, know?
No, that's understandable. That's very understandable.
Sure.
So, and then, well, let's get into what we liked about these series, because I really want to delve into them, at least for a little bit, real quick. Daredevil, I loved the fact that, they were pulling so much and definitely could use a little bit more help from the comic books. We got to see the Hand. They're definitely dealing, like with the first season, we were dealing with just Matt Murdock in the black suit and the execution of that, and him getting into the reveal of him being Daredevil and confronting Wilson Fisk and the fight to stop him, where it's like we thought we got him, but he's 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of us, and he's revealing himself to the public. So I thought that was well done, and just the developing of these characters. And of course, we got to talk about that fight scene, or that second episode fight scene in the hallway. That long stretch, that was masterful. Yes. And that really shows you that the toll it's taking on him. Just, I remember that one scene where he just kind of he falls back onto the wall and he kind of props himself back up to launch himself off with his tired punch and just being really torn down and worn down. I think that's one of the things that makes a good story and makes a good hero. You see the hits, you feel the weight of what he's going through. Another example would be that fight against Nomu, or Was it Nomu? I think it was Nomu in the second season. No, it was the first season, but he comes back in the second season. The ninja, where he's in the warehouse, and he just cuts him up and really, really makes him bleed. I thought was really cool. But then again, not only the physical, but with his struggles and trying to bring Wilson Fisk down. I just dropped that. Was really interesting to watch too, and it helped make other series, other characters, them too, really interesting to watch, to the point where even the villains were more interesting. You had Wilson Fisk. He was interesting to watch. Karen was interesting. Punisher and Elektra when they came in, and of course going to the other series, I was really taken with Kilgrave.
Right, yes! That was absolutely tremendous. I thought I was good.
David Tennant, a marvelous actor, one that we've been watching for a long time. So when he came in, it was a really nice build-up. So when he showed up, it was truly scary.
Yes.
And then we get into, not so much, they delved a little bit into Iron Fist bad guys a little bit with the fight of the immortal weapons in one of those seasons, but they didn't really get into like Davos and the Steel Serpent until the second season. And then exploring with Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, and the Dragon Sisters. I believe that was how they pronounced themselves. And then that twist at the end where Colleen ends up getting part of that power of the Iron Fist, and it left with that sort of cliffhanger with Iron Fist going around the world with his friend, his surrogate brother, to find out more about the Iron Fists. And you get into like Bushmaster. Really well done characters, and especially with going back to Luke Cage, Mariah being the sole antagonist, whereas Cottonmouth in the beginning I knew he wasn't going to last. He wasn't smart enough, but Mariah was. Yeah. And I love those type of villains, and what kind of makes someone like Doctor Doom, or even going so far as like in the DC, Lex Luthor, interesting. Here are these regular people who are able to be a threat to these larger-than-life, superpowered beings. So I've said it once, I'll say it again. It's always the thinkers, the intelligent ones that are more threatening, more interesting to me. You put someone like Doctor Doom, who has no powers. I mean, he does have some mysticism, but he has his mind. He has his armor, his tech, his intelligence, that ends up being a threat to the Fantastic Four, who have their powers and their mindset. So that's something to be applauded, and that's one of the things I liked about these series. As much as I like the heroes, it's the villains too. And then you get into like Daredevil, who are just interesting to watch because they're a train wreck coming. It's what's that German word? Schortenfeld? I can't remember how you pronounce it, but essentially you can't turn away from a train wreck.
Oh, Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude, thank you. And that's what Bullseye was the entire time. You just saw him losing. It's just going and going and going, closer and closer into the abyss. And then going back to Wilson Fisk. Here's this guy who's been in prison, but he's in more control over the FBI than the FBI is of him. And just see him work his way out of this crisis to the point where he ends up becoming the kingpin again over the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is just it's compelling. It's masterful stroke of writing and should be applauded. So bravo.
Yes. Good job, Marvel and Netflix. Hopefully, we can see more of these characters. More of those actors portraying these characters. Or those characters very soon.
Real quickly, I just want to mention some of the stuff in the past. The TV series that we've got, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., really good. We were talking about with DC how it kind of got formulaic to the point where it got to its third series with Supergirl, and it was all right out the bat. with the same formula being the computer guy and the support team and that.
Yep.
And how Shield wasn't. And it brought in other characters and brought in different situations, and it delved into the ramifications from the movies. I'm thinking about Civil War and Hydra's infiltration of, or not Civil War, but Winter Soldier, in Hydra's sort of snaking in and infiltrating Shield, and how it dealt with that with Shield, Agents of Shield, and then delving into the mysticism of it, bringing in Reyes. The new Ghost Rider and the Hell Charger.
Sure.
Which was cool. And going into space. And just every season was different from the last.
Sure.
Which is really great. And then you go in prior to that, then we get into like the cartoon series. One of my personal favorites, and yours too, the 90s Spider-Man. And we had talked about the DC series with Batman being the greatest. I would put that akin to X-Men animated series, which was really great. I mean, when you get that intro going, you know you're in for a good time. And it delved into a lot of the source material from comics. I mean, I'm talking about like Dark Phoenix.
Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
Bishop showed up, and I was, when I started watching that, I was like, well, who's that character? And then Forge? Wasn't Forge in there
Forge
as well?
was in there too. Cable was brought in. They brought in with Genosha. They kind of delved into the Extinction Agenda a little bit. But they delved a lot with the source material and dealt with some serious stuff, especially with discrimination and racism. Mutants being feared for who and what they are. It wasn't a cut and dry villain of the week thing with X-Men. I mean, you sympathized with Magneto. You understood his plight.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to bring something up. I'll wait.
Okay. But I mean, to the point where even in some series, some parts of that series, he ends up becoming a hero. Or at least a partner. I remember
an
that.
ally, right?
An ally, that one stint of a couple episodes, I can't remember how long, where Xavier and Magneto are lost in the Savage Land, and they're working together. And there was always that hint, and this is what I love about this. It was never simply black and white with them. It was always friends at the other side of the spectrum, the other side of this discord that they had between ideals. But there was a certain level of respect, and that was something you hadn't seen in comics. So it to me, it's up there, if not greater, to Batman the Animated Series, because it delves into those gray areas. So
now can I bring up what I was going to say? Okay, great. So there's X-Men the Animated Series, but that's not the first animated X-Men that I saw. Okay, I saw Pride of the X-Men.
I remember Pride of the X-Men, yeah.
Okay, where Wolverine was Australian.
Yeah.
Don't worry about us, Dingo. We'll make sure we can.
And Magneto was trying to destroy the entire planet. With an asteroid?
With asteroid,
Yeah.
Scorpio Comet. That was what it was.
That's so, Comet. So that's so not Magneto. That's so not that character, and that makes no sense for him, because he was like, perhaps in that if they would have, like, if the comet would have killed, right, or like removed Homo sapiens, right, that's Magneto.
Yeah.
Not, I'm going to destroy the entire planet, which will kill mutants too.
Yeah. Or cause enough damage that it would kill some mutants along the way, but the stronger ones will survive. That's sort of like an apocalypse thing.
Sure, but it was just, no, I'm going to destroy the planet. And maybe that's just a week where Magneto just gave up. He said, you know what, I throw up my hands. I've tried to help. I tried to understand humans, and they, made me suffer, or, they really wounded me. I tried to help out mutants, and they wouldn't listen. So, what? I'm just going to destroy the whole planet.
Well, oddly enough, that was kind of what he did. He didn't send a comet, but you remember that Jim Lee revival in the 90s of the X-Men comics? That was pretty much where Magneto was. He was like, he'd given up.
Oh,
He's
really?
like, I don't
Okay.
care about what happens to mutants. I don't care what happens to humans. I don't care what happens on the planet. Destroy yourself to the very last man. I no longer care. Just leave me out of it. In my asteroid, rock in the sky, in space. Sure. And then he was brought back into the fold with his acolytes. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much was what happened. But yeah, I do remember I remember when I could quote that word for word.
Oh, really?
I had watched it so many times I could recite it to you verbatim. I love that one so much. But yeah, I looked that up recently, and you realize that the guy who played Magneto, and this is kind of funny, is the same guy who played the psychiatrist in the Terminator movies.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He is. It is the very same actor, which blew my mind. But you go back and listen to it again, it's like, yeah, you can hear it.
In less than a day, most of the human race will be wiped out. The mutants will rule the earth.
But here's this wheezy little doctor guy who's trying to, make money off of Kyle Reese and the rhetoric he's spewing and whatnot. And to realize that he played the master of magnetism is just mind blown.
Sure.
So
do let me bring up some shows here. So like there was an 80s animated Incredible Hulk, wasn't there?
Yes.
It began with like this bomb, 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 because there was a 90s Incredible Hulk cartoon
there was
show.
the 90s there was the 90s Fantastic Four and the Incredible Hulk
and Iron Man.
And Iron Man, yeah.
There was that, yeah.
Which
but there was an 80s one too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And then there was
so I watched that. Yeah.
And then there was like 70s Spider-Man series.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Friends.
Spider-Man and his friends. And then like the really old school where it was the Spider-Man whose web was only drawn on his mask. Everywhere else it was just solid colors. And then I remember like the old Fantastic Four series that was like done in the 60s where they pretty much just put panels up on screen and they moved the mouths and that was pretty much it. Oh man, that was a trip.
Yes, but, I watched a full episode of that. Okay, it's where Magneto shows up to.
Is this with like the wood gun or whatever?
Yes. Oh. Magneto shows up, and he shows up in his magnetic car. Okay, and he goes to a gas station. I do believe to ask where the Baxter Building is or something like that. And so the guy's like, "Well, you're gonna need some gas, Mister." And he's like, "Nobody commands Magneto." And he twists the gas station sign.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's just trying to steal money, and he's putting like all this money in a helicopter. And he's like, "I'm going to fly over the border, probably to Canada, and I'm going to be rich." And
where they don't have extradition, right?
I guess so. And Reed tricks him with a wooden gun.
I couldn't control your gun. You made me lose my magnetism.
You're wrong. I just guessed that you'd overlook one simple thing. My gun isn't real. I made it out of wood, specially to fool you.
What?
That was hilarious.
A wooden gun?
Oh my god, my Bane, wood!
Yes,
I can't use this building right next to me that's full of metal and iron that I can manipulate in order to get the wooden gun out of the way. Oh my god, I'm hurt.
Well, yes, it ends with him being handcuffed and he's being put into a squad car or something like that.
Yes, a car made out of metal.
and Reed says it's a wooden gun, and so Magneto knows it's wood. He still has his powers, but he still gets in the car. That's a testament to Magneto. It's like, you know what? I know I could, defeat you all right now, but oh gosh, you bested me with a trick, and so I'll just go to jail.
Yeah,
I'll just go right to jail.
You bested me, sir.
Yes.
I remember those '90s series of like Iron Man, Hulk, and Fantastic Four, and I remember that like halfway through, they sort of have like a reinvention of them, to where they got sort of like the quality was better. Yeah. And the series were better, storytelling wise too. And I just remember like that Fantastic Four Doom, the actor they got to play that was spot on Doom. He was elegant and his vocabulary was grandiose and he was theatrical. is just... I remember that one scene where he kidnapped Sue for some reason to exact revenge against the Four.
Yes, I'm so sorry to involve you in the time-worn damsel in distress cliché, Mrs. Richards. I fear the only thing missing is the onrushing train. However, sometimes expediency outweighs originality. Now, with your permission.
That's Doom. And they really captured the character with that one. So
let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at this. We'll ask you, what did you think? What were your favorites? What did you like? What didn't you like? Give us your thoughts. We're on Instagram at Comic Space. We're on Twitter, Comic Space Series. We have our email. John, tell them the email.
Oh, sure. Yes. That's like what? I was just dozing off for a moment or something like that.
No, I gotta keep you involved, man. You can't be dozing off on me. You never know when I'm gonna pitch it to you.
Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. Stay ready all the time.
Yes.
Yes, that's comicspaceseries@gmail.com.
Yes.
And there's also a YouTube channel as well.
Yes, we have YouTube now. So all the series, we're going to be doing a new reaction series here too for the month of October. So look forward to that. And so yeah, drop us a line, say hi, tell us what you thought. Until then, this is Zach with John.
Hey.
You've been listening to the Comic Space Podcast.
No place to hide, no place to run, no place to run. The mutant age has now begun. X-Men!